Hi everybody. Today I want to talk to you about absolutes and what you need to know for the 4-unit HSC Maths. And first of all, this is going to be under the topic of graphs. A relatively easy topic. Essentially what you need to know is how to manipulate graphs, and absolute is part of it. And what I like to think of absolute, what it is generally a reflection of a graph. There are four main ways they could ask you to find the absolutes, and to begin they could straight up ask you to find the absolute of a function. They could also ask you to find the function of the absolute of x. They could also ask you to find a combination of both of the above, like so, as well as the absolute of y equals to the function of x. So you do need to know how you draw graphs, how they're wanted. So yeah, I will begin by giving you a demonstration of how you would manipulate graphs in regards to the absolutes. Let's say you were given this graph. That would be x, that would be y. That's 0. Make sure you label all your graphs. Say -1. Let's say that equals to 2. That tends to infinity. Okay. So the very first equation they could ask you is find the straight up absolute value of a function. Like so. And how you would go about doing this is whatever's below the x-axis, you rub it out and you reflect it. You reflect it, then you rub it out. Like so. So initial graph would look the same except whatever's beneath it. Okay, so that is essentially the absolute of fx. Moving on, you may be asked to find the function of the absolute of x. What this means is basically a reflection about the y-axis, and you kind of ignore whatever's on the left side. So you keep whatever's on the right and you reflect it, like so. That is essentially the orange equation. Moving on, you could also be asked to find the combination of both of the above, like so. And what would happen in this case is whatever's beneath the x-axis, you would reflect it and then cross it out. But in this case, you use what you've drawn in the orange equation, and whatever's beneath the x-axis, you flip it. But in this case, there's nothing below the x-axis, so you keep everything the same. And there you go. And lastly, you have absolute of y equals to the function of x. And how you would go about doing that is essentially you look at the original equation, a graph. You look at the original graph, and whatever's below the x-axis you ignore, and then you reflect whatever's above about the x-axis. So essentially you get a graph looking like this. Intercepts will be the same since it's mirrored, and that is how you draw the absolute of y equals to the function of x. Okay, so let us move on to an example that I found in the 2005 HSC past paper, and we are going to attempt to do the question relating to the absolutes, which is this equation and this equation. So you are given y equal fx as this graph, and you're asked to draw on a separate page the following. So let's begin by drawing the absolute of the function of x. How would you go about doing that? As I said before, whatever's below the x-axis, you reflect it. So it would have an intercept at 1, and it will follow approach 4 as it approaches negative infinity, like so. And that is the answer to part 2. Let's do part 4. To find the function of the absolute of x, what you would do is, like I said before, whatever's put on the left side, you ignore, and then you reflect it about the y-axis. So this would be -2, and you would get the exact replica, like so. Quite easy, right? And that is essentially what you need to know for absolutes.